Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the next video in the restoration series of this Loewe-Opta Truxa 1701w. And this is the one where it gets really messy. You can see from what I've got here that I've done a lot of work on removing all that teal paint. And there was paint everywhere, everywhere. I mean, the side plates, the grille, the logo, you name it. I got so sick of paint chips and paint bubbles that this week has been really frustrating. I have not finished it, as you can tell, because once you get all that rubbish off, and I've used so much paint stripper and so many paper towels to clean it all up and scrape it away, and all that gunk gets in your fingers and ugh. Anyway, once that is done, and you've cleaned off your desk, by the way, I've got a new mat. That thing was completely blotched. So once you've done all that, then you've got to start working on finishing the actual cabinet. And the cabinet here required some color. So I used walnut. I believe that's probably as close as I can get to the original. And you put that on, but you've got to sand this first. I'm jumping ahead of myself here. This took a lot of cleaning and sanding and all that sort of thing. And once you put that on, you then start putting on lacquer. The weather has not been good enough for me to put lacquer on. It's been raining and it's very humid, so I've got to give it a few more days. And it takes a long time between coats. This takes about 7 or 8 coats of lacquer. So I'm going to be leaving that for the coming video. But in this one, I'll show you how I got from that ghastly green box to this state. And along the way, the side panels had the paint removed. The logo had the paint removed and is refurbished. The little trim around the edge there got completely cleaned and polished. So there's a lot of work that went into this week, although there's not that much to show because it's just impossible to actually do the work and film it. And anyway, who wants to see paint bubble? And, you know, the only thing worse than seeing paint dry is seeing paint bubble. And actually, when you scrape it and you get that nice thick goo, for the first 3 or 4 times, it's actually quite exciting. Then it just gets mundane and boring. But anyway, if you want to see how I got to this state, stick around and enjoy the video. The fact that this radio is lying on its back, or rather with the top end down, should already give you an indication of its state. I would never put a radio like this if the finish was an issue, because the top surface is the one that's probably going to be most visible. And that's where you don't want any scratches. But this thing has got so much to do on it that I have to get to the bottom end. So it's turtled. But besides the color, we've got another issue. This whole bottom has come off. Which in a way is a good thing because I've got lots to do on the actual board itself. We can see here, this is all chipped away. So I'm going to have to fill that with glue and clamp this down properly. This is also broken off unevenly from there because this section stayed on there and this one came with the base. So that's the first thing to look at. Put that aside for now. Let's see what we're dealing with. This has actually not damaged the thin outer layer, although there's a thick layer of paint on here. This will probably stick down pretty well once I decide to stick it after I fix the bottom. So that's not too bad. This side is pretty much the same issue. Now I do notice something, and that is this board over here. I'm not sure. No, I am sure. For a minute there I thought that this board was not original. They'd put this in because I see the green on the bottom there, but I've just realized this green is the entire side cover that they removed, painted and pushed back. That's why there's, they put it back when it was wet. There's some green paint that ran down here. And I'm glad I don't have to remove that because that is nailed and glued down. I'm going to have to remove the side cover without removing this. That should be fun. Otherwise on the inside it doesn't look too bad. We've got our FM dipole antenna there with that little coil is an impedance matching coil. So that's still in place. Everything else seems to be complete. So I think the first thing I need to do Actually, there is one thing I'll do first. See that little brass trim there? That's that trim around the edge. I think I'm going to take that off first. And then I'm going to remove those side covers. They're so stuck with glue that should be interesting. I hope I can get it out without more damage. Now this little bit of brass here is usually what holds these two together. And I see there's a little nail. By the way, look at the original finish. It's actually pretty good. I hope it's like that underneath the paint. Let me try and remove this little nail first. Yeah, that came out quite easily. Now I wonder how stuck this is. I think I'm going to have to try and break the seal on here first. Oh, jeez. Well, it's all chipping off nicely, but getting it out. Okay, it's starting to move. Well, that might be coming out. Let me try to do this around and see if I can get this thing out like this. Well, that has actually started to come out. Now, I've got to be... Okay, I'm getting lucky. I'm going to gently pry these things away from the edge because I've now separated that junction over there. Hopefully, this will all come out. I'd rather do it in my fingers just to prevent any damage. I think this is going to work. I think this is going to work. I'll show you the result when I've done it. Well, that came out. So I'm hoping that it's all salvageable. See, this thing's got an inner ledge as well, and in some places that ledge broke off. See that? It seemed to have been sort of rusted in place. This was not from the paint job. I think they tried to take it off before. I think that's all reconstructible. Okay, one little step for man. These side panels, I already tried to start on the other side. These side panels are proving a challenge because I've only got access, you can see me move that there. I've only got access to a little bit of that grill over here, which is a little bit strange. You can see the other side, that's where the speaker goes. The rest is just decoration. So I know that I can push part of this out, but the rest I've got to sort of pry it out from the side. And it's not proving too easy. I've got to break the... That's what I don't like doing. I'm going to have to break this paint seal over here without damaging the wood or the plastic. And all this without breaking this plastic cover, which is pretty brittle as it is because it's old. I need to get in there somehow and push this out because this usually is just held with a bit of glue on the inside. It should come out quite easily, but it's proving difficult. Can't do this on camera. I'll show you when I've completed that or not. Well, what do you know? This just gets more and more interesting. Somebody put nails in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nails to hold this in place. Well, at least, yep, at least that comes out easily now. They painted everything. And then they put it in here when the paint was still wet, because that was part of the original. This doesn't normally use nails. This thing is normally just, I've never seen one with nails anyway. You might have. Usually it's just a little bit of glue on there and it holds in place. Sometimes there are some screws coming out here that are used to fix it to the back. But at least with the nails, it came out. Okay, the other side might be a little bit easier. It took a while to find the nails because they were buried in the paint. Okay, this one's got the nails out, so I should be able to just push it. There we go. What a bloody mess. This fabric is totally useless now, but I can replace that. That shouldn't be an issue. All right. Yeah, I'm laughing so that I don't cry. Now it's time to find out. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. We still have the logo. I wonder how that's put in. I have to be careful. Usually there's some nails or screws. Well, there's usually like nails or wire that go through there and bend at the back, but I can't see anything at the back. So I wonder how they've put this in, or how this was put in. Well, that is a bloody mess. There are indeed 3 little screws on here, or they sort of extensions on here, but there's nothing at the back there, so these had to be sort of found and pried out. This can be straightened, it's not a problem. I'm wondering if these are, no, these screws, these are actually like ridged nails that you're supposed to push in and it holds in place. But that seems to be fine. Okay, this is a different story. This looks a mess. And I'm wondering if I haven't done some serious damage. What am I talking about? Whole thing is serious damage. I'm wondering if I've done any serious damage to the veneer. What a joke. I think I've got everything out that I'm going to get out, and I think the next step is just to start working on getting rid of this paint. Should be interesting. You can tell from my voice that I've lost a little bit of my enthusiasm for this job. I was all excited to work on this cabinet. Idiot. Never mind, I do go through these phases where I get up and I get down and I get despondent and then I get all excited, and I'm just one of my down phases right now because this thing looks bloody awful. Anyway, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix the base and then stick the bottom on so this thing starts behaving like a cabinet when I flip it around. Okay. When I look at this, it's bloody awful. I don't know how I'm going to get all this paint off here. I don't know if you can use paint thinner on this old sort of plastic. It might affect it. I'm going to have to test a corner. Okay. Stop whinging. Well, as you can imagine, it became totally impractical to do and film at the same time, so I decided to just go ahead, do it, and then show you. And here are the first 2 pieces to show you. It's those side panels. And what I had to do here, this is unbelievable. I had to scrape the paint off every little square millimeter of paint with this. It was a bloody nightmare. It's probably the biggest waste of 4 hours that I can remember. I tried to use paint stripper, something like this stuff here, but it just wouldn't work. It actually started eating some of the plastic. This is, I think, where I tried it. And I saw that this whole thing was a little bit messed up anyway. Somebody had been in here before me. There were scratches in there. So what I did is I scraped all the paint off. This side I only gave a light coat. Scraped every little bit of paint off and then sprayed it with this brown. Now this brown is as close as I could get to the original color. I took this thing to the hardware store and sort of compared it, and it's pretty close. It is pretty close. So that was a solution to a bad problem. There is still some rough stuff down here which I couldn't really sand down because either it was created by me when I scraped the paint off, or in some cases I know there were signs of it already. It almost looks like somebody tried to strip this before. But with this painted, it came out quite well. And they are going to go in with, not with the holes, not with the nails as somebody used before, but rather with just a little bit of glue in the edges. You put it in and it's fine. It works very, very well. Those are the 2 side panels. I'm going to have to find some fabric similar to the one they use on the front panel to glue on the back here. You will see it, so it has to be period correct, or as period correct as I can get it. But that is the issue of the side panels. Now, this trim came out very well as well. This trim, I was able to use the paint stripper. So I painted it with paint stripper. So I let it all bubble up, cleaned it, and then scraped it off with this. This was enough to get the rest of the paint off and to actually polish it. So it came out pretty well. There are parts of it that have that loosened edge, but I think because this just fits into the back, into a little groove, that won't be an issue. If I have to, I'll just give it a bead of glue on that inside there as well, which is normally how these things are stuck on anyway. So that's one more piece done. And then we have the logo. Well, the logo was just dipped into paint stripper. All the paint bubbled out, and then I try to polish it. But there's one thing you need to realize here. The inside and this horizontal section, these are dark brown on the original logo. And then only the top of the letters are showing through as brass. All this was sort of faded. So what I decided to do is spray it with the same spray that I used for that. And now I'm going to try and just brush the top. I suppose I could use a bit of wet and dry paper and just sort of slide it along, but I'm going to try my usual trick, which is the Dremel, and very lightly approach the letter. There we have it. I've not touched the base. And there we go. That's done. And finally, we come to the actual cabinet. Now, obviously, this is after a lot of work has been done. I just could not sit and film this while I did the work. It was just impractical. But what did I do? Well, I used a lot of this, many times. What I would do is paint this on. This is a sort of a gel. So I'd paint it on. You leave it for about 10, 15, 20 minutes. Don't leave it too long or it just dries up. And then you start letting it bubble. And once it's bubbled, it sort of becomes scrapable. So you scrape that off, and what you're left with is more paint. So you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. In the meantime, I obviously did glue the bottom section as well. And I had to get green out of just about every little bit that you could find. I've got all that is going to ever be visible out. And the only green that I didn't remove is, for example, on the back strip. On here, for example, this was taken out. Most of it is out, but this was sanded. And what I decided to do is I'm going to paint this edge anyway. This edge is normally painted, so that's going to get painted, so that will be invisible. I got the green out of that baseboard there, the stuff that had run down. This will now just fit on here, obviously with the with some grill cloth in the back. Now this is just the wood tint, whatever you call it. What do you call it? The colorant, the color. It's put on with a little brush. My fingers are still showing the results of some of that. It's got 2 coats on here. Let it dry completely. And then I'm going to put on another 1 or 2 because there are still little bits and pieces that, this is not paint that's showing through, but there are little bits that are showing through. And the result is actually incredibly good. This cabinet, the veneer on this cabinet was actually in very good shape. If you recall, I mentioned that perhaps one of the reasons they painted it was because the veneer was irreparable, but it's not. It's pretty good. Very good, actually. A lot better than some of the ones that I've seen. So this now has a few different little jobs to do on it. and one which is not usual. Let me show you. This radio comes with a little gold stripe along the bottom here. Now obviously you can't see it. I know that I sanded it off. This little gold stripe is something that's very hard to replicate. If you try and paint it on, it's very difficult because the paint sort of runs. You can put tape on there, you can do whatever you like. Very, very difficult. But in the past, I have used it before. I found this for sale on eBay somewhere. And this is a little sort of glue-on tape. You literally just peel it off and stick it on there, and it's exactly the right shape, size, color, everything else. This is probably as close to the original stuff as you can get. And it comes in this sort of format. I bought a few meters of this. I've used quite a bit. I think it was on the SABA. Yeah, the SABA that I'm looking at there, the FREIBURG 8, has a dual one, has two of them. Some of them have just one. This is just one. I know another GRAETZ has used it before, or I've put it on a GRAETZ before. It is a lot easier than painting it. Dave, I think you painted one recently. When you were doing that, I remembered that I had some of this left. I don't remember how I found this, but if you look on eBay, you will find it. Usually it'll be eBay Germany. If I'm not mistaken, this was from the German site, a German supplier. And what I've got here is more than enough to put that around the front there. But that I'm going to do afterwards, because what I need to do first is make sure that the color is right. Make sure that all the little spots and specks are gone. Things like that. And once I've got that done and this is dried, I sand it down again, put some more on, sand it down, very fine sanding. The first sanding was 180 grit. And then once I'm happy with the color, then I'll start putting on lacquer. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to put in the first 1 or 2 coats of lacquer. Then I will put on this, because this will stick better to lacquer than it will to the tint. And after that, it just gets more and more lacquer on top of that. And at that point, I'll be able to start finishing it off, polishing it. And once that is done, I'll put the trims on, I'll put the sides on, I'll clean the grill, the speaker grill. It's pretty good shape actually. Put all that back and I'll be able to finish the radio. But this has been 1 week of a hell of a lot of work with not that much to show, which is why I'm going to leave you now, because we've had rain, and putting lacquer on here with rain is not a good idea. It just takes a hell of a long time to dry. So I'm going to be doing that in the next few days. So for now, that's where I'm going to leave you. And I hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon and PayPal. Once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now and stay safe.